playoffs for H2K. See what they want to go for as we enter picks and bans. 80 carries, already the center of attention on both sides. Caitlyn, Kalista taking off the board, and it looks like Galio not going to see the light of day, at least in this series so far.
Caitlyn, a little bit surprising. It has not been a high priority pick here in playoffs, but I think H2K are expecting G2 to ban Tristana, Kalista, and then H2K were setting up for a potential Zven first pick. 80 carries couldn't really escape that. Zven is banned away by G2. Those very standard red side bans. Let's see if Tristana gets banned as well. It will not. So it is open for H2K to grab if they want to first pick the 80 carry for Nuclear. And normally when Tristana is open, you grab Tristana.
One of those top tier 80 carries, so popular in play, more popular in the ban column than anything else in the last few weeks. But seeing the light of day here in this series, and I have to wonder what G2 have planned for the bottom side of the map. Similarly, when we look at these two teams, I think we inevitably have to talk about the mid lane Deficio and some small differences in champion pool, but you can see where they line up. A lot of differences in performance as well.
Very true, but Orianna is key for both these guys when it comes to performing in these big games, but then also a champion like Cassiopeia for PerkZ was a big pick for him in the quarterfinals. For Febiven, we have not seen him play here in playoffs just yet, but obviously from the regular season, his Lucian was fantastic, definitely the best in Europe on that specific champion. And we also know that he can always fall back on Syndra if they want to set up, a little tent around the mid lane for Jankos to just camp PerkZ.
This is the classic. The mid lane jungle synergy paid off well for Maxor and Power of Evil yesterday. We'll see if Jankos and Febiven want to follow suit. However, as this phase rounds out, you kind of have to start to be scared of that G2 composition. Two tanks already locked in, and we've seen Cho'Gath underestimated at first in the G2 versus Splice quarterfinal, but showing its real value.
Definitely still a strong pick. Maokai is still open as a potential jungle tank, but he is lower priority than some of the ones we've seen either banned or picked in this game. Elise is still available if Jankos wants to focus on early game in a game like this one. And Rek'Sai is still an option if you want a bit of early game and some late game as well.
Keep trying to sell me on the Rek'Sai, man.
I don't
think it's going to happen.
It actually works. It's not as good as some of the big picks, but it is still fine if you need a bit of early game and some late game.
Oh, and I love this Thresh coming through for Chei. We've been talking so much about Thresh in recent, or not Thresh, but Chei in recent weeks, coming up as a big playmaker for H2K. Now, this just feels like one of his signature champions, but on the opposite side, Alistar is technically left open for Mithy, although you have to imagine Orianna just remains the ultimate priority here in the mid lane.
Yeah, I like the pick a lot here from PerkZ. He sees the blind pick Cassiopeia. The Orianna will still in the late game be a massive threat against her because you can zone her off with that ball placement. H2K are running this super strong backline where they have two carries who can just, through very consistent DPS, burn through tanks. But they're always at risk of getting jumped on by a Sejuani at Cho'Gath. You can almost get one shot then by a Feast or maybe a big late game shockwave. So right now, G2 eSports, they have the backline threat where H2K are more focused on hitting the first tank that is standing right in front of them and see how fast they can kill that tank.
It's going to take a little while though to get that damage in, depending though. Maybe if they find an early lead, they can start to shut down the picks like the Cho'Gath or the Sejuani before they really come online, before they hit that terrifying gargoyle stone plate moment in the game where they are nigh unkillable. But Zac will be banned away. H2K have yet to select a jungler, and Zac has been one of the premier picks for Jankos this split.
And if you are running this kind of combo, G2 are running where you want to try and see if you can reach the Cassiopeia or the Tristana, having a support with some sort of engage, a bit of a gap close that can actually get to them is very powerful. Thresh locked in for H2K though means that they have a very safe bot lane, and we might just see Mithy play Tamkench, Morgana, these kind of counter picks to Thresh specifically if he just wants to have a very easy laning phase for him and Zven.
And I like that H2K have taken away all those potential late game carries, but one that may have slipped through the cracks is the Sivir.
Oh, I like Sivir. I really like Sivir, but again, if G2 wants
so much time.
That's the thing. If G2 wants like a stronger laning phase, then they will go for like a Varus. But I think this Sivir pick here is very smart with the amount of tanks they already have, and it just makes it even easier for Cho'Gath to succeed because he's running at people.
Yeah,
he's not jumping
we forget.
people.
We all know Sivir, 500 CS win condition, you get there, you probably win the next couple team fights. But more importantly, maybe in the early game is on the hunt with these tanks, Deficio. And we've seen expects Cho'Gath is something to be afraid of. Even if you get a small lead in lane, it may not be enough. However, H2K clearly packing options of their own when it comes to beating that Cho'Gath.
Yeah, Trundle top lane here for Odoamne is one of the counter picks to Cho'Gath. Takes a bit of time for it to really kick in, but it is still a very powerful pick once we get also further into the game as a big split-pushing threat. We're still waiting for the jungle pick for Jankos. Maokai is still available if he wants to play a tank like that. Oh, this is another one which actually would synergize very well with the Tristana. He's playing it.
Oh, NUnu coming in the EU LCS. All right. Mixing things up. Of course, the ultimate very valuable. Slowing down the Sivir, the potential engages. More of a zoning tool than a damage tool, but still effective nonetheless.
Mithy now needs to decide, does he want to be the guy who can also engage onto the backline with an Orianna ball on him? Or does he want to be the more defensive support like a Morgana Tahm Kench to guarantee that his own AD carry stays safe? It looks to be the Alistar, so he wants the more aggressive route for himself.
And after his Game 5 performance against Splice, you got to know that he's feeling confident in that pick. Solo zoning Senkux out of a number of fights, securing the win for G2. And H2K, very different draft than what we've seen in the last series G2 played.
I like the lanes a lot, though, from H2K. I think Cassiopeia is one of the strongest laners in the mid lane. I think the Tristana Thresh double range combo should be able to apply a lot of pressure onto Zven in the bottom lane. And we know that Trundle will just, in the start, have a little bit of a farm fest versus their Cho'Gath, but that's fine for Trundle. He wants that as well, so he can actually become a big split-pushing threat later on in the game. And funny enough, both junglers locked in. None of them are like the greatest gangers in the world. They're not exactly like the Elise, where you have to constantly execute big gangs. So a lot of these lanes here might actually be very safe and just focus purely on the 1v1 and 2v2.
And I'm more than anything excited for that 1v1 in the mid lane. Cassio, Orianna, maybe not the bloodiest matchup, but we saw Senkux pull out a couple of kills against PerkZ in it previously. Have to see what Febiven can do on that Cassio, what PerkZ can do on that Orianna. G2 straight away from it. Last time we saw them, now they're busting out something new. And folks, you know what time it is. Head on over to Twitter. Hashtag H2K win, hashtag G2 win, at LOL eSports is the place. Let us know where your loyalties lie, because we're getting ready. Semi-final. Spot in the finals in Paris on the line. Could be the first final H2K get to, Deficio.
The very first one. They've been so close so often. Almost every single regular season, people are getting hyped about H2K because they show some brilliant games. There's some great macro in there. There's some great individual performances. They have a superstar jungler in Jankos. But then when it really counts in playoffs, they cannot perform. This needs to be the playoffs where they do perform. We've already seen Fnatic. They're not making the final. G2 eSports.
If there was ever a season to have an upset, Splice takes G2 to Game 5. Misfits knock out Fnatic. If there was a year for H2K to show up, I mean...
This is it, baby.
This is it. Players talking so much on Twitter and social media about how confident they were coming into this.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
It's actually great because from talking to players on both teams, they were all mentioning how great their preparation's been. They feel so good, great practice coming into this, and obviously they've not been scrimming each other, but the other side of the bracket, and both G2 and H2K feeling like this is the moment, this is the game, and this has been the proper preparation before a big semi-final match. So I really want to see both teams perform at the highest level. All starts in this Game 1. Maxlaw said it's very important for the confidence, the mental part as well. If you win Game 1, you get a big boost.
You're feeling good about that prep, and it pays off. It definitely is a good look. If you start to lose, we have to wonder how deep that preparation goes. How many drafts do you have prepared? For H2K, the mix-up this time around is the NUnu. And as you mentioned earlier, maybe not the most gank-focused jungler, but I'm curious what we can expect from Jankos on this pick.
I mean, a lot of what you do on NUnu is ideally you try and make the enemy jungler as useless as you are in the early game. In many ways, like, you focus on vision, you try and actually move into his jungle, see if you can steal away camps, and you can spot the jungler all the time. You can constantly communicate where he is on the map, because NUnu wants to go to late game, where his Blood Brawler kicks in, he gives it to the AD carry feels awesome, and then suddenly Nuclear can carry the entire game. But Jankos obviously wants to control Trick first.
And I want to see where he's going to go. You accurately described NUnu, and I think exactly why most people hate playing against NUnu.
It's actually never fun to play against him, because again, he wants to be as annoying as possible. He wants to keep you busy so you can't gank lanes. Sejuani's gank is okay. She's not the greatest ganker in the world, but it's okay. She can definitely go to a top lane and punish a Trundle with no dashes or anything and try and lock him down for a Cho'Gath. But again, it requires Trick to escape Jankos. Get away from Jankos first, not be spotted every single time.
And they know exactly where Sejuani is right now, or at least have a decent idea. Chei walking up, using that pressure from bottom lane to be safe, but Mithy tries to get the headbutt pulverized. Yeah, buffering the animation there.
Oh, there we go. That's step one. Jankos is already in the jungle.
Oh, he's moving for more. Smite comes out. Snowball. Team jungling, folks. That's how you do it.
And as you can see, it's not like Trick is afraid of Jankos. He's just annoyed at him. He's like, can you stop? I need these Raptors here.
Look, man, I need this experience. Jankos is like, yeah, I need it too, man. Just back off.
And now he will take away another camp. It is fun, though, that it's Jankos playing NUnu, because junglers. Jankos is just sitting as the best in so many different things. Like, he's the most active jungler in terms of jungle proximity. He gets like the most kills plus assist before 15 minutes as well. On NUnu though, that might not be the case, because if you're 0-0-0 and no one is dying on your team, you're actually doing your job.
We talked about that. That sets them up. This is already what H2K want to do. They want to farm. They want to give Odoamne the time to scale up. Is losing out on some of these trades, but is keeping the wave pushed up. At least for now. G2, however, as they start to invade with Trick, maybe not so content to just let this laning phase go by without any action.
Well, Trick knows that his topside camp is gone. He sees on the bottom side there is still a few minions for him to kill, but Chei is also spotting that, and he's just sitting kind of stopping Trick from taking anything. And right now, H2K are succeeding in keeping Trick down. He's currently sitting only at level 3, and Jankos already hit level 4, and there's another camp for Jankos to kill on the bottom side. So great start here for the NUnu.
Does look good. Catch-up experience,
Chei's still sitting there being like, I am checking if Trick is here.
And this is the thing I love about Chei, is that I feel bad for Nuclear, because Chei is never there, right, Deficio? But when Chei leaves, he's always trying to get something else. He's saying, hey, Sejuani's not going to take this camp. Hey, we're going to figure out where Sejuani's going. And Jankos,
oh, he's ganking.
Throwing down some pressure. Going to hit him a couple times. All right. Underwhelming, as expected. But PerkZ is a little bit more scared now, folks, and you can't underestimate that. Next time that Yeti comes back, maybe he'll have an AP or something. We're waiting for late game, I think.
We're definitely waiting for late game. Mithy, he's not waiting for late game. He's already in the jungle. So is Trick. Jankos is around, but there's very little mana on Febiven. Right now, we saw Jankos in there to actually help Febiven just clear the wave. But this is going to be a camp now for G2 eSports. So Jankos was called to assist the mid laner. Meant he couldn't continue just power farming in his own jungle, and Trick catches up.
Gotta like this from G2, using the pressure advantage they have on the bottom side from Sivir, sending Mithy up to make sure that if Jankos wants to go fight for those Raptors, that he would get taken down. Good use of the pressure in their respective lanes, but no greater advantages yet for either team.
As we talked about, this will most likely not be the most action-packed early game, just based on the two jungle picks. And we know with these teams that the laners are very even in terms of individual skill. So we're not expecting PerkZ to randomly be 3-0 in his lane on his own. No, it's through ganks from Mithy and Trick or roams from Expect. Like, that's kind of what we're looking at. It's going to be a team-focused game here between G2 and H2K.
Yet despite how even it feels across the lanes, across the individual roles, H2K have struggled when it comes to facing down these top teams. We saw it on the analyst desk. We'll see it again now. When it comes to battling the best in Europe, or at least the best from the regular season, H2K have struggled, man. They've never been able to compete with G2, Fnatic, Unicorns of Love, some pretty abysmal win rates. And yes, they dominate everyone else in the standings, but that doesn't matter now. That doesn't matter when you're facing off against another top team.
But Lena, good trade here. PerkZ also tanking up some minions. But to talk about H2K versus the top teams, some of their problems come from late game, where they haven't been able to cleanly execute games and they're losing team fights. Top lane gank, though.
Guys, on a look on the stacks. 3 and 4 is going to be the stun up. Expect does have the ultimate. Odoamne is going to have to flash out to safety. First blood dropping for G2. That's the power of the Cho'Gath.
Remember, a few minutes ago, we talked about how Trick could look to gank the Trundle. It's very hard for Trundle to escape, especially when he gets slowed, because, again, he's not providing any dashes. It's a flash and then it's movement speed for him. Trick waited for Cho'Gath level 6 and then executed the gank here. Jankos did not have control of him, because again, after Jankos got called to that mid lane, he lost the camp, and Trick was actually able to roam around the map a little bit more effective, and he finds that one gank top lane. So very important for G2, they get Expect ahead, and they get the Cho'Gath ahead.
Exactly what we want in terms of individual advantages. Cho'Gath gets so scary when he has a few extra items under his belt. Jankos gives back a team advantage. Individual laners may not find any kind of edge, but the mountain will help in the long run. Febiven now running mid lane. That's the ulti over the wall. Febiven not going to get tagged up. So close, but Trick just a little bit off there.
Yeah, both mid laners without flash. Trick, if he had landed that one, could have been an easy kill onto Febiven. Just missed it though. Very close attempt. Jankos did steal away the blue buff from G2, so PerkZ right now sitting without it, and Febiven can get his blue buff from Jankos. Should be a bit of an advantage.
Mithy just continuing to play aggressive, trying to zone him off the wave so they can find a pressure advantage on the bottom side. We saw Jankos walk past his Raptor camp without clearing that last Raptor out, so maybe a bit of a fumble. Not going to cost him much more than a bit of gold in the long run.
But also to go back to the Cho'Gath getting the kill, we have to remember G2 left Tristana open and traded that specifically for Cho'Gath. They gave it over to NUnu and said, you know what, we're not afraid of you on this champion and we need expect on Cho'Gaths. Because what you can do here, even in matchups where there's a split pusher on the other side, Cho'Gath, after 25 minutes, or even after 20 minutes, can just run to Baron with his team and just start the Baron and force a split-pushing Trundle to move towards the Baron and take a team fight. And G2 have drafted pure team fight. There's nothing on this team that says side lane split push.
This is a Sivir Cho'Gath Alistar comp.
Yeah,
this is the definition.
So much team fight. Let's see mid lane. They use flash here. Okay. Febiven flashes forward. PerkZ reacts as well. Trick then actually comes to the mid lane, but then sadly did not connect. I think there's a little more trading happening.
Going for the all-in.
Let's see how close it is. Let's see how close it is from Trick. Flashes. Oh, that is so close.
Questionable hitbox, folks. Questionable. Definitely looked like he got hit by the big old end of that bola. But not the case. I completely forgot my point, Deficio. You got so excited about mid lane and flashes.
This is cool. I like the Febiven game one. He's trying. Being like, yeah, I can solo kill PerkZ.
Poke at him. You know, we saw PerkZ fall flat to Senkux. We saw the pressure from Splice be so effective. Now Febiven just poking the bear a little bit, seeing where the weaknesses are at, seeing if you can get him on edge. Odoamne continuing to struggle though. And you mentioned him being a split pusher. It looks like the itemization going to tell us the same story, building towards what appears to be a Ravenous Hydra or a Blade of the Rune King early on. Not an item for team fighting.
Definitely not. Like Trundle again, it's all about applying side lane pressure, and then when you do join fights, you have your ulti, which can be so valuable to, of course, make a tank squishier. And as we talked about in champs like Cassiopeia and Tristana, their job is to kill the first tank in front of them. Trundle will help. Let's see bot lane fights.
On the hunt, going to be burned. Mithy going to be hooked up, just going to use the Unbreakable Will immediately. Jungle backup is there. Jankos coming down as well, but not sure what value. Going to add Blood Boil, still effective, but both sides going to back off. Chei trying to make the plays though. Mithy on the wrong side of the wall. Leap forward from Nuclear. That's the explosive shot down. Ultimate available. No Unbreakable Will. Hook. Flashed out.
Cheeky Chei right there, hitting that blast cone, surprising Mithy and forcing a flash in the bottom lane. Great start from Chei so far.
And Chei's that guy that we have to talk about. Once again, a big playmaker for H2K. Kind of not exactly who we expected the most from when we look at the H2K bottom lane. They were mostly playing back, playing defensive, playing matchups for the team, the utility. But now, when he gets his hands on this Thresh, got to keep your eyes on Chei.
Let's see bot lane before we talk about the graphic. Another trade.
Spell shield available. A lot of patience from Zven there.
Very good from Zven. Not using it on the flay, because then he can still get hooked after and might have to flash. Febiven might get caught out.
Potentially in trouble. Sidestep on the ultimate. That was solid. Febiven now running back. Miasma used. A lot of good forward coming in from both sides. Trick has to be a little frustrated. That's the second one to go wide. That one definitely sidestepped, though.
And the first one, that was so close. This one was a nice sidestep. The graphic here. Look in the middle part. Jungle proximity, 20%. That's between Chei and Jankos. This is the most for supports in EU LCS. He spends so much time leaving the lane, teaming up with Jankos, invading the enemy jungle, ganking mid lane for Febiven. And they apply so much pressure together when they win the lane. It does mean Nuclear is kind of left on his own. But as you can see here, Chei is also getting the most kills and assists for support before 15 minutes, meaning it pays off that he actually joins up with Jankos and they make these plays together. A champion like Thresh is a good one for him because it actually means he can be a playmaker. He can create picks for his team. Sadly, not really with the NUnu this time around compared to the standard Jankos junglers.
But maybe not the most aggressive champion there, Deficio.
It just means that this game, Chei will stay in his lane a bit more and focus on the 2v2 against Zven and Mithy.
And we brought this up at Champions Select, but kind of expecting them to get an advantage early on. They have the double range lane versus the Alistar and the Sivir, but of course you're going up against Zven and Mithy. These guys infamous for neutralizing any kind of lane advantages, and they are, despite an advantage for H2K in draft, doing a very good job of going even.
Yeah, and also the Alistar really stops Thresh from just purely all-inning, because you can always just combo away the enemy to carry. if anything happens, or you can even focus the Thresh, who's a little bit squishy in the early game. For now, they are still playing somewhat safe here in game 1, Drakos. No one is going over-aggressive.
Okay, I can't stop laughing. He just walked by to Blood Boil. This champion makes
That's what NUnu can do! He's gonna steal the blue buff, though. Trick is trying. Third time?
Point blank.
No, he's not ready. 5 seconds.
I'm gonna take it. Going over the wall. He's gonna see the blue buff might be going away. Jankos. Flawless consume smite combo.
PerkZ not been able to get a blue buff so far in the mid lane. Jankos been stealing away 2 blue buffs now in G2's jungle. Once again, making sure that this NUnu is doing its job. Expect roaming towards the mid lane. Flash is available for Febiven, but you can flash silence on a Cassiopeia, and then you can actually hit her with the CC. I'm not going that aggressive yet.
Jankos applying more pressure on the bottom side, using the Blood Boil, trying to find these small edges over the G2 lineup, but now it looks like it will be the 3v3. Trick is moving forward. Ultimate comes out from the NUnu, dealing out a decent amount of damage. Now pulling back. TP has been utilized. Orianna is here. Cassio coming in on the backside, sees an opportunity for the ult, but it does not connect.
TP behind.
Cho'Gath on the way. Nuclear and Odoamne need to make it out of there. No one gonna get hit by the rupture. Now expected in no man's land. He's trying to pull back. He's gonna make it out to safety 4 now. The fight has restarted. That's a 3-man shockwave. They're moving for a little bit more. Jankos is in trouble. Nuclear and Odoamne untouched though. Trick taking so much damage in exchange. No one has died yet.
And they'll all escape. Everyone walks away, but H2K, they're close to the Drake. They're starting it. They already picked up 1 Mountain Drake. They have a NUnu and a Cassiopeia for late game Baron rushes. Double Mountain Drake to help. H2K can suddenly look to force the big objective later. This fight though, all started in the bottom lane. TPs came in, mid laners joined, and no one died this early, so we gotta look at summoner spells instead. Chei used his flash, so did Febiven. On the side of G2, expect no flash, Trick no flash, Zven no flash, so small advantage in terms of summoner spells for H2K, and they got the Drake after.
A decent amount stacked up. Jankos unfortunately not able to finish the channel in this fight, but very close to doing so. Does stop Mithy from Trick from pushing into the backline, and honestly that ult missing, that could have been the clutch moment for H2K to actually win the fight, but
exactly, just missed it, but then Trick dives in without ulti, barely any mana. Zven couldn't really join the fight yet, and a good shockwave from PerkZ to try and put it in favor of G2, but they're all kind of just hitting what's right in front of them, and Zven finally joins the fight here towards the end, and then realizes he needs to flash away. G2 eSports could not pick up a kill, and H2K will be happy with that, because again, they got a second Mountain Drake.
But we have to look at that fight. If that fight had occurred 10 minutes later in the game, 1 more item on the Orianna, 1 more item on the Sivir, that shockwave would have single-handedly won the fight, and Zven would have had the damage to clean up. So H2K have to be careful about picking those fights against G2. You talked about it already. G2 are built to fight. H2K don't quite have that same luxury.
I mean, the only difference for H2K is they have the Trundle top instead of this big, strong, massive tank who can just one-shot someone in Cho'Gath. But again, the Trundle with his ulti will add so much value in terms of the damage from Febiven and Nuclear on the first tank they're trying to kill. It means G2 needs to kite in and out with their tanks when they get ulti by Odoamne here. And also, of course, the Trundle will be hard to kill during that ulti phase, because if you use your Trundle ulti on a Sejuani before her passive is procced, woohoo, that's a lot of stats.
And pop it in the end with a little bit of damage, but Rift Herald will go down uncontested. G2 a little bit behind on the first tower trade, so first tower advantage given to H2K. But a tower in the Rift Herald will be given to G2 as Zven collapses on the top side. Odoamne's here. Might actually deny this in the end. Delaying the gold spike for a little bit. Tiamat makes it pretty easy. But Odoamne definitely not winning out on that exchange.
He's a little bit squishy, and of course he just wants to kill the wave. He knows the tower will die, but he's trying to buy time for Nuclear in the bottom lane. Nice buffer again.
I keep wanting to get excited, but every single time he gets hit by CC, he makes it out.
And now again, they're pushing mid lane. Mithy is just behind H2K. We're setting up for some very big fights soon, but so far the teams have had a few, and now they're just trying to push down towers and get the gold advantage.
All for Odoamne. He does not care about Zven one bit. Just wants to clear the creep wave, just wants the health to do so, but Mithy's on the way. They're just going to pull back.
We have to remember, H2K have only 1 member top, 4 members on the bottom side.
PerkZ potentially going to get picked off here. Ice Ball moving forward. It's going to be hard to make it away from that one. No ultimate moving forward. That's going to be a kill back for H2K.
It's not over yet.
Locked up into the tower. Jankos set to fall. No heal available. That's still going to be the 1-for-1. Trick fires back, and Zven finally going to get the topside tower.
But right now, we have had H2K hit the mid tower for quite a while. They're still trying to hit the bot lane tower as well. G2 finally killed that top lane tower. Odoamne He bought so much time for his team in a 1v2 situation. Did have to see the tower fall though, and we got to see how much damage H2K got on mid lane tower. Down to about 50% HP, and the bot lane tier 2 tower on 40% HP. So no gold yet for H2K, but at least some work was done.
Really solid play by Nuclear. Got, of course, the shockwave earlier, knowing that now that they can punish.
And he just knows. He knows there are 2 members top lane because he can see them with the minion wave. He knew Cho'Gath was mid lane, so the numbers advantage in their favor. And this time, Trick hits the
ultimate. Yeah, may not be able to hit Febiven, but he can hit that cocky NUnu running under the tower. It's a good play in the end. Very small gold advantage for H2K. What is arguably more important than that at this point is the fact that they have a NUnu, a Cassio, and double Mountain Drake. Baron, a very real possibility very early in the game.
And we have another Mountain Drake spawning Drakos. Could be 3 in a row for H2K. Both teams are trying to set up vision before it even spawns here in 1 minute and 40 seconds. Mid lane tower is an option for H2K, seeing as they already did so much work on that objective. They just need G2 to step away for a few seconds and the tower will fall.
Nuclear though, so we check in on the lanes. Neither team looking to go for anything more aggressive. Nuclear continuing to build a CS advantage for himself over Zven, courtesy of the side lane. And Odoamne uncontested on the top side here.
Let's remember, he can bite down the towers as well to make it even more effective for Trundle to sit in the side lane. And this is what you want when you pick this Trundle. Get that tower down in his lane, create longer lanes for him to move around in. And while again we talk about G2 having that pure teamfight comp, H2K's teamfighting is also very good because they have these massive carries in the back, and one of them is being buffed by a Blood Boil. It will just be a little bit harder for him to execute because Nuclear and Febiven need perfect positioning. Trick spawning the Rift Herald just over the wall. Minions are getting pushed in now, but the Rift Herald will just be on its own.
They have been falling out. Odoamne is going to be here to clear this one out, but now Trick potentially in trouble to flash forward. The Flay not going to connect from Chei. The hook not going to connect either. That's got to be embarrassing. Goodbye. Dodging out. NUnu looks for the disengage, but Chei, that one has to hurt. Misses everything, and it costs him his life as well.
Going for the big play against a no-flash Orianna, and they're not even getting close. That's a free kill for G2. A lot of damage on mid lane tower, and tables have turned right now in the mid lane. Looks to be G2 picking up that big objective.
Grouped together now to fight. No Rift Herald to back him up has been cleared out, but the tower lower than ever. No shockwave from PerkZ. Can't really afford to initiate a fight, but both teams, once again, just poking at the weaknesses, looking for opportunities. A few kills here in the favor of G2, and now expect... Looks like he didn't want to give up that, but now they're just going to move on to the Baron. This is incredibly early.
Again, double Mountain Drake, but they don't have Cassiopeia here yet. They don't have Tristana either.
Mithy all alone. Flashes as soon as he makes it out of the miasma. Is going to need to try to make it to safety. Pulverize. Looks for the disengage. Chei over the wall. That hook is going to connect. Moving forward. The Flay. Mithy trying to run for his life. The Blast Cone. Chei making it out to safety. Zven is over the wall. Trick trying to hunt down the support. All on his lonesome, but that's advantage to H2K.
So H2K rushed the Baron here to force G2 to react and then just turned instantly to fight him. They can start Baron again with the double Mountain Drake. And they're doing it straight away. Jankos and Odoamne, they can tank it. 4v5 here.
Cho'Gath versus NUnu. Who's going to get the Baron in the end? Trick is coming over the wall. Chei does manage to connect the hook. Nuclear still in the pit. They're burning it down. Trick gets it in the end. 50-50 in the favor. Beautiful shockwave, but no follow-up. Just a Baron in the favor of G2.
The NUnu did not manage to secure the Baron. That's a big win for G2. They can go straight and get a Mountain Drake as well. Both teams playing around Baron so early. We talked about how the Cho'Gath composition can do this, but also again with the NUnu on the side of H2K, they could go for the same kind of Baron rush, but not picking up that objective. It hurts so much because this is now a massive advantage for G2 and their insane late game scaling comp. This was supposed to be a Trundle in a side lane with Baron buff.
Be clear, it would have made the split pushing the threat from H2K with this Trundle immense. And now, once again, we see Odoamne. He's not here to split push. He's relegated to defending this tower as best he can. Luckily, he has a little bit of damage to threaten Zven, but not enough to take him down. Definitely not with Mithy there. And as we look back, we just have to praise Trick for this.
Yeah, this is not a 50-50 because Expect is not even getting in there. It's just Smite from Trick against Consume and Smite from Jankos. And he's consuming and doing the animation. Trick smites and secures the Baron.
And that right there. Remember, Trick has played the NUnu. He knows the timing, and apparently he knows it better than Jankos. Oh, that has to be frustrating for the H2K lineup. Now, though, they're looking to fire back, looking to get something. Nuclear going to make it out. Despite the Baron buff on the side of G2, H2K still willing to roll the dice, still willing to look for these picks and this vision. Moving forward, Baron buff going to be utilized. Usually we see it to break all the tier 2s. Look like just a tier 1 this time. H2K going to have to give this one up. They know they cannot afford to fight here. Just make their deficit even larger. 2K in the favor of G2, 23 minutes in. It's not everything, but it's a solid start for a team that wants to force these fights. Baron buff going to make it that much easier and should allow them to continue to extend the gold lead.
Basically what happened for H2K was the Baron got too low before the consume smite was started by Jankos. It was all the way down to about 1300 HP. So by the time the consume connected, there was actually time for Trick to smite right after.
Now it's just split pushers on the side, Cho'Gath versus Trundle in the mid lane. The rest of the teams focus on the bottom side, looking for those tier 2 towers. G2 now just going to move up into mid, use that wave that Expect has pushed forward. Jankos trying to threaten, backed up by Odoamne, but Trundle may be king of the 1v1s, but definitely not tanky enough yet to fight multiple members of G2.
And after Trick with that hero play, you can see how it's G2 pushing down every single lane with the Baron buff. 3k gold advantage now. Trying to get towards the third item as fast as possible on the big carries. And they're getting some damage mid as well. Zoning ulti from Trick.
Just wants the tower. No one can afford to push any further either, courtesy of the miasma from Febiven. But we've seen G2 here before, Deficio. This is the point you never want to let G2 get to. Give them a gold lead, give them a team fighting comp. It feels like it's almost impossible to come back. Only Splice was able to do it, and only with a very cheeky combo. Morgana and Camille alongside a Galio.
Well, in this game, it's on Febiven and Nuclear to be the big carries in fights. Nuclear will get all the resources, all the tools to try and carry a late game fight as Tristana, but the problem for him is he's not dealing with 5 squishies right in front of him. There will be massive tanks. One even has an ulti that makes him almost unkillable on his own. So it will always take time for Nuclear to kill the first tank. He will need Febiven to assist him, and while they're busy doing that, they're kiting away from the damage of PerkZ. The potential combo from Mithy that knocks someone up, and then maybe Zven gets in range to kill them. So Nuclear and Febiven are in such a tough spot where if they just for a moment step out of position, they will get engaged on and they might die. But if they play perfectly, they can still do it. So we're really looking at these two guys. The rest on H2K, they need to try and zone and keep them safe.
The good news is that despite the deficit, they're doing a decent job of keeping up in itemization. No boots for Cassio, but the Tier, the Morello, the Abyssal Mask will mitigate some of what PerkZ, Trick, and Expect are trying to bring to the table outside of that true damage. In the AD carry department, a little more damage, a little less attack speed for Zven, but Nuclear on his way to his third item. We see some trading between the two tankiest members of each of the teams.
Blastcomb was used by G2, they're down bot lane.
Odoamne running is going to use the ultimate. Subjugate giving him a lot back. We'll make it out to safety. Trick, though, wants to continue this. Lantern, bring the team back.
And now we have G2 again with that 4k gold advantage, but we have to remember, that just started now, that little snowball. 5 minutes ago, H2K were in a great situation. They started the Baron. It looked like they would secure the Baron with the NUnu. They could have been the team now pushing down some of these outer turrets and getting the gold lead. But then a Baron steal from Trick. Key moment now gives the advantage over to G2. The game is not over yet, but it's a big shift happened from one play.
And we have to praise Trick for the smite, but at the same time, this is the high-risk, high-reward play that H2K took. They gambled. Did not pay off for them. Small execution errors count against them, and we mentioned how important it can be to win this first game in a best of series, especially when you're H2K, a team known for kind of cracking under the emotional pressure, whereas G2, yes, PerkZ was shook up last week, but you heard Mithy. He wasn't even worried about going to 5 games. He was worried about a single misplay he made in that game 5.
Still though, for H2K, we've also seen them bounce back here in the summer split. They've had moments where they would fall behind. Think back to the Misfits series during the regular season. They were down like 8,000 gold at 15 minutes, and yet the team actually managed to bounce back through some really good team fighting and good shot calling. So we saw much better late game from H2K towards the end of the summer split, and they need to show that in this game here, despite some of the struggles they might have against the massive tanks on G2's side. this is one of those games where they can really show us something in terms of their late game team fighting.
And we saw in those clutch moments, Odoamne was the one who carried the team. He's on a Trundle, maybe not as flashy of a playmaker as the Camille, but maybe this is the time for Nuclear to step up, for Febiven to step up and really show us those carry performances. Febiven, no doubt, he's been a rock for H2K. Consistently a reliable damage sword, consistently good, but haven't necessarily seen those same clutch moments from him.
Odoamne is sitting top lane right now, keeping Expect busy. 4v4 around the mid lane. Mithy just off to the flank, but Odoamne will do well in the 1v1 if he gets enough time.
It still takes so much time, Deficio.
Baron is alive again, though, and we will see the two teams play around it. They can both rush it down with their comps. Cho'Gath on one side, NUnu on the other side.
They're going to try to burn it down. Cassio's there, Tristana, NUnu. Is this the time? Expect ready to go over the wall. Miasma not going to block any entrance to the pit. Looking to get this one. Will H2K secure it? They get this Baron. Now they have to get out of the fight. A shockwave going to be used. It's going to connect onto two. Multiple members look set to fall. Mithy going to be pushed out of the fight by Nuclear, not giving him a chance to make any plays. Odo, he may just be the sacrificial lamb, but can the rest of H2K escape?
They got the Baron recalls. They're using them. Jankos is out. So will Nuclear. H2K, after losing the first one, with G2 right next to them, they're like, you know what, guys? We're going to do it again.
That right there, Deficio, that is the definition of ballsy. That was an insanely confident play. I would even call it cocky. If it had backfired, I would have called it dumb. But it works out for them in the end.
It shows confidence, though, and it shows they know, okay, this is what we want to do with our comp. Even after the first misfire, they go for it again. Expect flashes in, Feast is ready. 1400. And then it is boom, Jankos who secures it.
Flawless timing. Jankos may have messed it up the first time, but he gets it right. And unfortunately,
hey, Zven got the Rift Scuttler.
Courtesy of the Ricochet. Someone had to die for this.
Odoamne would be the man that sacrificed. Everyone else got out. So now, H2K with the Baron buff. They lost about 3.5 to 4,000 gold last time when G2 got the Baron buff. It's time for H2K to get it all back.
See if they can now even this up, Deficio, because unlike last time, when G2 got a Baron, they almost instantly got a gold lead. H2K is still fighting back from a gold deficit. Double Mountain, yeah, it helped them get that, but it doesn't match the Infernal and the Mountain on the other side for G2, and more importantly, that terrifying Cho'Gath. Stone Plate already completed. He's a tank, he's a damage threat. He may be immobile, but other than that, he's got everything you want.
Well, that's why you give him Righteous Glory and a Sivir ulti, and hopefully he gets in there if you actually give him enough movement speed.
He's got 9 stacks too, so definitely looking lethal, but just Tristana things.
I gotta say, Drix, like, this first game is exactly how I expected G2 and H2K to be. Not a lot of crazy early plays, but actually just like composition with a lot of scaling, and then they're trying to just play slow and steady.
The NUnu Cassio Double Mountain 20-minute Baron, that didn't qualify as crazy.
I said early on, not the 20 minutes. The first 15 minutes went as expected. I love the Baron calls though from both teams. That's just, they know exactly like, well, for both, I say from both teams. I mean from H2K, obviously, because they're the ones starting the Baron.
A lot of confidence.
Woo, Nuclear. But they know, okay, with the Double Mountain, NUnu, they could do it.
Watch out. Febiven finally going to get hit up. Jankos looking for the ulti to try to disengage. Will get pulled back into the team. Febiven is looking to get burned down. This could be bad news for H2K. That is one carry dead. It is all on Nuclear to clean up the fight. Odoamne is coming in on the backside, but G2 have found an opportunity. They've found the pick that they need.
Run, NUnu, run!
Blood Boil may take them away. Blood Boil may be enough. Odoamne, Lantern! Not enough! The ward comes down. The play that made Jankos famous this split. Now used against him as Odo tries to run for his life. Odoamne running to Chei. He's waiting on that Lantern cooldown. Will he get it in time? Where's the Feast at? May not have it. Nope, there it is. Nom, nom, nom. G2, man.
Oh, there's so much CC and movement speed. You just keep chasing after H2K. All start in the mid lane. Febiven had no flash, and Trick finds a good ulti. This Sejuani pick has really been playing off for G2.
You can see Jankos, he tried to disengage. He tried to use the absolute zero to stop anyone from advancing, but PerkZ doesn't have to get that close. He attaches the ball and makes things happen.
I mean, Trick just making the call, dashing, flashing forward, and he knows that Cassiopeia without a flash, if there's no one in front of Febiven to take that ulti, well then Febiven will die instantly, and H2K know they have to just run away because the tanks, it takes too long for Nuclear alone to kill them. Nice little chase, and it looked like Odoamne was going to be sacrificed at first, and then double wards on the Lantern.
He did not auto-attack either of them.
And
Odoamne did.
you can still click, I hear this actually quite a lot, you can still click on the lantern, it is just much harder to do, which is why the wards are still effective.
If you bind movement only click somewhere,
you can actually click the lantern.
You can always click the lantern. No one has it binded because it's useless outside of that, but...
That's the one thing you need it for.
Well, now, G2, I think we have to praise them, did such a fantastic job of neutralizing the Baron for H2K. So even after the ballsy play, the second Baron for H2K, they're still 4K down, and G2's keeping them there. Only 576 gold given over to H2K in the end after that team fight going so heavily in the favor of G2.
And we got another Infernal spawning. There's a wave pushing top lane that Febiven needs to kill. This, of course, gives full control around Dragon for G2. No flash from Trick this time around, but Mithy is starting the fight.
Headbutt pulverized. Nuclear trying to make it out to safety. No input buffer on that one. Thresh cannot save the day. It's all just prey at this point for G2. Easy to run him down. Just going to move under the tower. No one is there to save him. G2 dominating.
Second time where G2 plays a ward on that lantern and H2K not able to click it. Nuclear ends up dying. Flash used as well in the fight. And G2 going straight for this turret.
Breaking the inhibitor line, exactly what you want. But Odoamne, he's going to fire back. He's going to get that bottom tier 2 in his team's favor. But with an inhibitor open, it gets so much easier for G2 to play the map. One constant source of pressure there in the mid lane. And they already have plenty of pressure in their favor. You can see the aggressive engages coming out left and right from this G2 lineup.
It's one of the things we mentioned in Champ Select, how G2 have so many tools of actually getting onto H2K and often onto the carries. Fight just before was Febiven. We just saw Nuclear here in the latest one get caught out by Mithy's engage. And Chei are not able to save them with the lantern. So you have G2 just with so many tools to start fights. And they're using them. That's the key thing. We've seen other teams also have good engage, but then not being proactive enough with how to actually start a fight. Trick here flashing forward. He's going for it. Mithy as well. It's great to see that G2 are able to utilize the engage. But Baron is spawning in 40 seconds. I have a feeling it might get rushed down again.
Might be the case, but you bring up flashes is a good point because Chei and Nuclear both burned theirs in the last engage. So that's going to definitely be a disadvantage for H2K. Maybe a lantern will finally go clicked in one of these fights, but you can see the control wars in the inventory at G2, and most people would call those for vision. I call that counterplay as the On the Hunt comes out. It's going to be stunned up onto Odoamne. We'll have a chance to use the subjugate shortly. Slowfield goes in. No one going to get knocked on the rupture. They're all getting pulled in. That's the 5-man shockwave moving forward. Sivir on the way, but a beautiful disengage from Febiven. I don't think it's going to be enough. Zven takes down Chei.
Just when H2K managed to kill a tank with Febiven and Nuclear, then PerkZ lands a 5-man shockwave. G2, they're starting the Baron here. Odoamne is TPing in. We have Jankos in the mid lane. He's fairly low though. Smite is ready, but this Baron is gone.
2K dropping, it's gone. Cho'Gath's going to take that one back. Odoamne waiting, looking for an opportunity, but Deficio, what a fantastic play from PerkZ.
I mean, that last teamfight again shows perfectly how both teams want to play their comps. You have H2K hitting the tank right in front of them and killing him if they get enough time. And then you have things like Orianna with a lot of these tanks that can keep people busy, will find time to put that ball in the correct position and actually be a threat to H2K's back line. And PerkZ have been landing some great shockwaves in this game. Last one, yeah, that was the best one.
Yeah, the 5-man, I think we call that a good one.
Hey, he had some 4-mans, so pretty good too.
Moving forward. Now it gets really scary because yes, Tristana, definitely someone you have to be scared of. But on the opposite side, Zven, he's not interested in killing your tanks. He's here for your carries. That is full crit itemization, no armor pen needed. He is here to kill Nuclear. He is here to kill Febiven. He could not care less about the rest of the H2K lineup.
Nuclear trying to get towards his last item. There's no Ardent Sensor for him in this game. Technically, you could get it on NUnu with Stormborn, but it has not been the choice for Jankos. He needs some tankiness for himself, meaning that is just a Blood Bar, which I think is enough already for Nuclear.
Interesting just to see H2K put so much pressure on Nuclear. Hasn't always been the center of attention, but has been performing well so far. 2-1. Excellent buster shots to disengage some of these fights, but unfortunately, they need a little bit more than disengage at this point for H2K to bring it home, because G2 are still applying all this pressure.
They're running straight at them.
On the hunt, Hughes, NUnu all gonna try to find the disengage, but they're just gonna eat through Jankos. No hesitation. Nuclear is free, hitting onto the back line. The two-man engage coming in from PerkZ. Chei now knocked up, knocked down. G2 looking for a little bit more as the double kill drops for Expect. H2K, they're running for their lives. Not a single member can afford to get hit by anything, where this game could end in the favor of G2.
They're gonna go for more. Nope, Mithy gets denied right there. PerkZ and the rest of G2 are looking for the Nexus turrets.
Clear doing what he can, but the command, attack, the dissonance, zoning him out completely. Keep your eyes on the ball. Nuclear and Febiven cannot get anywhere close there. One tower at a time. G2 looking to make a statement here. Making it slowly but surely as they look to break down this Nexus. H2K hoping, trying to get something back. Got to keep our eyes on Nuclear, but that's just Expect going godlike. 14 kills to 3. A dominant game one coming in from G2.
And this was one of those G2 games where it was not about the individual player standing out. It was as a team. They all had highlight moments. Shockwaves from PerkZ we saw here. Good engages from Trick and Mithy, and Expect being a monster in every single team fight. Unkillable and always a threat with the feast.
And you can see it pays off. The early priority on Cho'Gath, giving up to Tristana. A lot of people would have been skeptical, but when you see the results, you can tell Cho'Gath might deserve a little more attention in that ban phase.
Cho'Gath, when you actually build a combo around him, that makes him even better. The Sivir pick
Cho'Gath
was so good.
Sejuani
to start
Sivir.
Fights with the Alistar, Sivir to buff up the Cho'Gath movement speed. So even though we had this kite comp from H2K, they wanted to kill the first tank, they would never get time to do it because there's so much mobility and engage on the side of G2. Just a very smart draft to try and counter the first pick Tristana and then the second pick Cassiopeia from H2K.
And here's the thing is, Trundle all, drains a lot of those resistances. You don't have enough time for it to drain those resistances. Anyway. It doesn't matter. You don't have enough time.
And if you lose one tank, as we saw in the fights here, if you get enough time as an Orianna, you should be able to find that one shockwave that can actually just kill one or two guys on side of H2K.
And how are you going to get on top of that Sivir? How are you going to get on top of that Orianna?
Sivir, yeah, you will never actually kill her in the start of the fight. Anyway, this game was still super, super close, where the 20-minute Baron was obviously huge for G2. They managed to steal it away from H2K, and then H2K picked up a Baron, and in the following fight, they ended up losing Febiven due to no flash, and suddenly H2K could not utilize the Barons.
Yeah, definitely an insane back and forth. Well, we've seen a lot of action so far, and there's more to come. Tweet your big plays at LOL eSports with the hashtag EU LCS and tell us what makes your highlight reel. Maybe a Baron steal coming in for Trick. Well, G2, they've kicked things off with a win. Let's get some insight from our analysts on that game one.
Thank you very much, Drakos. And while with a NUnu in play, obviously it's going to be a lot about the objectives all throughout the game. And we just wanted to highlight that first off because we also looked at Jankos and Trick as one of our featured matchups. Max Lore, Trick knows NUnu very well. What does he change in his approach to the early game and his clearance when he plays against this NUnu?
So Trick should know that the main objectives of this NUnu is, with the winning lanes that he has, to basically find Trick and stop his presence on the map, as well as try to secure the neutral objectives such as Drake and Rift Herald. In my opinion, Jankos did a great job securing the Drakes, and he stole 2 blue buffs, which was really good. It always allows his mid laner to pressure. However, the big thing this game was that H2K did not get Rift Herald.
Yeah, what we saw was that during the early game, H2K, they seemed to have a really good momentum. But then we saw a couple of slightly weird plays from players like Chei, who went for that flash hook in the mid lane. All of a sudden, we've just lost one of our members. Now we can't contest things like the Rift Herald. And also, I don't think they were super quick to try and move around the map. Something that we were discussing during the game was we expected H2K to potentially go for that swap a little bit earlier to then try and put more focus on that Rift Herald. But it felt like that their onus was not on trying to get that objective early on.
Yeah, I do want to turn this around and then also praise the presence of mind of G2, knowing, all right, we have lost that first objective, we have lost the first tower, we didn't get the Mountain Drake, but we know that we have to get Rift Herald, and later on, we know we have to push that mid tower, and what we're going to take a look at now, we know we have to get that Baron, even though they probably didn't expect H2K to start it that early.
One of the big things that G2 realized was, okay, there's a NUnu, there's a Cassio, there's even a Trundle, there's a lot of threat for H2K to try and sneak this Baron away, so we have to make sure that we have good vision around it. So H2K, they do a great job of punishing G2 as they're coming to get this vision, but then as H2K commit to the Baron, that is where we see Daddy Trick finally coming to.
Yes, it is no longer Brother Trick, it is Daddy Trick. Daddy Trick outsmites a NUnu. Unbelievable. Well, Cho'Gath just outsmites NUnu straight up. Right here, it's a tilt for Jankos. Like, he got the next Baron, he had confidence for that one, but this moment, in my opinion, was the one where they lost the game. Because of G2 scaling, they knew they had to give up objectives, and it's all about that Baron for the NUnu composition. They didn't get it. G2 win the late game.
Yeah, after that they get the mid tower as well. They get the dragon, as we saw.
Yeah, and it was just really good timing as well, because you could see that the smite came out from Jankos, and then just as the consumer's about to come, immediately the smite from Drake. Just really good awareness and mad props to him.
Fantastic. I want to watch or look at this in the context of the game and the mentality that we talked about, the mentality of H2K taking down the top teams in those key moments, and Jankos as a person who now on a NUnu, which your most important job is to secure those objectives, then this happens. So hopefully they can bounce back. You said, well, they went for the Baron after and got it, so that should have helped, but how much do you think it will influence him?
Well, I guess he got the second Baron, so I don't think it'll be that influential for him. However, I do believe the second Baron should have gone to G2 because they had more smite damage of Cho'Gath ultimate and the smite from Trick, but they didn't communicate what HP to smite stat, and so at the end of the day, the NUnu just got it.
The NUnu got it, but it was too little too late. G2 had a good team fighting comp as well, and we have to praise PerkZ. You guys did say, well, it's easier to hit that 5 or 4-man Orianna ultimate when everyone's grouped up, obviously, but he did it very consistently throughout the game.
But it's just so impressive to watch. PerkZ, he was a guy that we gave a lot of criticism towards during the regular season, but we talked about clutch players, and already coming into game one, landing so many multi-man ultimates consistently throughout this game just demonstrates how much of a clutch player he can be and how he can swing a lot of those fights in G2's favor.
Yeah, I do think we're going to take a look at some of those late game team fights where the entire team is able to wipe out H2K. So Maxlor G2 must be feeling pretty good about their chances, knowing that, well, they lost some objectives in the early game, they kept a cool head, and they win those fights late.
Well, it was kind of like G2's draft going into it, to have like 2 or 3 losing lanes, not sure about top lane matchup, and NUnu to just perma invade you. So yeah, they were just hoping to get to mid late and praying that H2K don't play perfectly, which was like the whole point of H2K's comp. If they play it perfectly, they'd win the game, and G2 couldn't do anything about it. But Thresh getting caught or them not securing Rift Tower, these mistakes slow down the game, and so G2 can get to that mid-late game and demolish H2K.
But also a very subtle thing, that the lack of cleanse on Febiven too was also a big contributor that allowed G2 to find a lot of optimal fights, because they had a key target that they could just focus down every time. There was nothing that they had to be afraid of, and I think that Febiven coming into game 2 needs to respect these kind of CCs moving forward. Yeah,
we'll see what alterations they make there. 2 things I want to see, or want to ask your opinion about going into game 2. First off, G2, they felt a bit shook up after that Splice series, but now having that behind them and having such a good comeback and a good game here in game 1, do you think this has now unchained them going into the rest of the series, Maxlor?
Honestly, I don't think so, because they still went for a really kind of safe composition, and by safe I mean just relying on the enemy team to make mistakes, so that you just by default win late game, right? I feel like if they had confidence, they would have at least picked like 1 winning lane or something to kind of help them in the early game, instead of just relying on H2K to mess up.
Yeah, we'll see if they change that, and then I want to turn that on H2K. The Jankos NUnu pick was obviously they had a game plan, it kind of failed in this one. So do you think they'll be inclined to say, all right, just go for something that can snowball your lanes early? Well, without a snowball, then another champion. And gank is more gank heavy.
I mean, they could do. I think it depends, because in this game specifically, they still play to the style that H2K is known for, which is getting an early lead and then relying on just a fast-paced kind of game. But then because they lost the Baron, things just slowed down. And if they'd secured the Baron, I think that would have been a very favorable game for H2K. And I'm hoping that Probably is just chatting to the team, being like, hey guys, it's fine. That was just a slight mess-up, slight mechanical error, no big deal. Moving into game 2, we can fix those issues, and we should be able to bring it back.
Yeah, no big deal. But if we look at their performance versus top teams this split, that is exactly the mid-game where they weren't able to capitalize. So I really hope that Probably has a good speech for his men and no man overboard. This is 1 game down. They're only the first game in the series. But G2, they are off to a strong start in the semi-final. There's still a lot to play out. We will be back for game 2 in just a minute. Stick around.
On the finals in